Hi guys, Legendary Talks here. I am very excited. I have a legend tonight, André Cymone. Extremely excited to talk to him. He is a music legend and has a long resume that I can't wait to discuss. What's up, Mick Murphy? How are you? Hey Sarah, hey Claudine, Sydney, everyone's right on time. I can't believe Mick Murphy is watching, although he won't come on. Sarah, thank you for doing the talk on Tuesday. That was really something special and amazing. Made me miss you. Hey, Imani. What's up, guys? So tonight we have André Cymone. You know, some of you on here know him. Some of you may not be so familiar with his long, lengthy, amazing career. What's up, Junior? What's up, Megan? Thank you. Very excited to chat with him. Mick, thanks to you, Mick. Give you a shout out, of course. How's everyone doing today? How you feeling? It's nice today. I'm in LA. It's nice weather. Chill. I got dressed up, you know, special occasion. You know me. Any occasion to dress up, I'm down. How's everyone doing today? What's going on with everyone? Are you drinking? And if so, what are you drinking? I'm drinking Belvedere and soda. Sydney is asking, what's my drag? Which is, it is a vintage jacket, Sid, thanks. Mick Murphy, when André Cymone is in the house, anything's about to happen. Oh, good. Excited. Thank you, guys. Red wine, awesome. What are you guys drinking? Megan Clark, what are you drinking? Sydney, what are you drinking? Okay. He said he's waiting for the join option to show. Let me try to request you, André. Let me see. No, that's not it. Let me see that one. What's his IG? Damn. Thank you for your patience, guys. Hold on. We're going to get this right. Don't worry about it. Acymone. I think I just asked you to join, André, so that may work. Oh, yeah, there we go. Perfect. About to go live with the legendary André Cymone. Looks like bad Wi-Fi also. Hey.
Hey.
Good, perfect. Worked out. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing? Sorry, I don't know what happened.
It's
Technology.
Okay. I got dressed up for you today, by the way.
I got dressed up for you.
Thank you. You look great. I got dressed up for you and Jermaine Stewart, but we'll talk about that later. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Feeling really good. Yeah.
Has this time been creative for you, or how's it been?
It's been extremely creative, man. I've been working on an album, and I finished it during this period. But I didn't really. I'm just not quite ready to put it out yet. So I started working on a classical album, and I've just been doing a bunch of different stuff.
Well, it's interesting because it's kind of it's almost a good time for creative people, for creatives, you know. Can you hear me?
We're cutting in and out.
I can hear you. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
So I was saying that this is kind of an interesting time for creatives because it's allowing people to really get creative and focus in a way that they can't usually, you know. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
A lot of my musician friends are also kind of just writing, and I feel like great music is going to come out of this and be out next year. So I mean,
Exactly. I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of people are doing stuff.
because
Woodshed just brought out.
there's many things going on in the world right now. So I think that spawns great art always. So.
That's right.
Okay, so we're here to. So I do this thing every night. It's called Legendary Talks,
Mm-hmm.
and basically I celebrate important people to culture. In every aspect of culture. So music, fashion, art, all these different things. And I thought that you would be someone that I would love to have on here and to celebrate all that you've done for culture, really. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for all you've done. Okay, so we'll start at the beginning. You're from Minneapolis, right?
Yep.
Born, and from what I understand, I'm from Detroit, and in Detroit there's two radio stations. One was hard rock, and one was like R&B.
Right.
And the R&B station was amazing. I only went to the R&B station. I didn't like the hard rock station. But in Minneapolis, from what I've heard, this is in the '80s, and what I've heard is that it was all one station. There would be Led Zeppelin and Sly and the Family Stone and Motown all on the same radio station. Is that true?
Not quite. I mean, there was a few radio
Okay.
stations. We had one black radio station that basically reached, I don't know, it seemed like just maybe 8 or 9 city blocks, but it wasn't very powerful. It was just a community radio station. And they played everything. They played funk, R&B, as far as that's concerned, just what was going on in black music. But we also had pop radio. We had we had KUXL, KDWB, KQRX, and they played alternative rock, and some of them played pop, and we used to listen to it all. I listened to it all. I loved it.
What were some of your main musical influences, you think, as a child?
My dad was a musician, so obviously, he was a jazz musician, so it was always jazz around the house and all that kind of stuff. But I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so when you're the youngest of 6 kids, you're going to hear a lot of stuff, and I mean, my brothers and sisters listen to everything. I'm really blessed because they listen to everything from folk to obviously funk, Motown. My sister was in the whole Motown thing, and my brothers were into Funkadelic, and my other brothers was into the Temptations, and so they were all over the map. So I got it. I was the beneficiary of just a plethora of music. So I was like a kid in a candy store.
I got turned on to the Minneapolis sound from my cool uncle, who was like 17 at the time, and I was probably 8 or 9. So I was getting those albums. I was basically stealing all those old albums, which was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you meet Prince exactly? Were you guys childhood friends, or how did you guys meet?
Yeah, we were childhood friends. 7th grade, I came from a bad neighborhood, moved into a better neighborhood, and started going to the school. Saw this little kid. He looked like he kind of reminded me of me in a crazy sort of way. So I just went up to him and said, "Hey man, I'm Andre. What's your name?" He said, "Prince." I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I play music." I said, "So do I." And that was it. The next thing you know, we was jamming, and we just got to be best friends.
And how old were you? Like about
11, 12, however old you are in like 7th grade.
Yeah.
I think because my birthday's in June, so I think I might have been 11.
And do you think you guys are similar? Because based off of what I know, you both aged extremely well, not well, extremely well. Something in that water over there. And then I saw you play for the first time at my party, actually, in LA, that first time.
Right.
And
Right.
I've seen many times since then, but that was the first time I saw you. And when you grabbed the guitar, immediately I said, "Oh, wow, he plays like Prince." I said, "Actually, no. You can tell that they kind of learned together or something." I feel like you guys kind of like, I could tell you guys were learning. You guys, you're an extremely talented musician, and I feel like you guys went to the same, schooled each other or something in a way, but
We did.
That's my own perspective.
Well, we listened to all the same music because obviously we lived in the same house for years, and we were in a band, and we had our first band together, and so there was all of that. But he literally showed me how to play some of the guitar licks that I play. I mean, so I play a lot like he does, and I in turn showed him a lot of the stuff I play on bass because I was the bass player in our band, and so we kind of exchanged, and I think his father obviously who showed me a lot of stuff on keyboards as well, and he showed me some stuff as well, and my sister plays keys. So.
And do you think you're similar or not? I don't, I'm just asking. Do you guys think you think you have a lot in common or kind of not?
Oh well, we have have tons in common. I think that's why we got to be such good friends. We had way too much in common, and we were very we were very competitive on every level. I mean, dancing, dressing, girls, music, buying music, everything that you can imagine. And then we got older cars and limos, and just it got stupid. But yeah, no, we had a lot in common, and I don't think you can have that much in common and not be really, really tight.
Yeah. So then you went on, you guys did a band together before, like it was Prince, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah.
And what was that like?
It was great. It was a band called Grand Central, and we played all around the city. We were just, we were really super young, so obviously, a lot of people didn't take us serious at first until we started ripping them ripping them behinds up. And they were like, "Oh, these guys are serious." And then people
know what they're doing. You mean?
Yeah, people started realizing you guys should be, professional.
Legit, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you went on the first tour with Prince.
Actually, the first tour, the second tour, the third tour, yeah.
And was it called just Prince at the time, or what was it? What was it called?
Yeah, no, it was just Prince at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like that first tour, for instance, that was for the For You album, right?
No, we didn't tour for the For You album.
Okay, for the Prince album.
Yeah, it's we didn't start the first tour until the Prince album. The album that had I Want to Be Your Lover was the single.
You guys were probably like, what, 20 or something?
Yeah, maybe a little older than that. Yeah.
And in my head, I envision that tour being
20 or 21, yeah.
And how was that tour? Because in my head, I can kind of see it being a hot mess because you guys you're basically teenagers still, these like, rock star teenagers. How was that first tour?
It was crazy. I mean, what can I say? It was crazy because Minneapolis is an interesting place because it's kind of isolated, and where we were playing, we were pretty much in the Black community. And so we went from that reality into a whole different reality. And, it was like, having, not that we didn't have fans when we, had our band in Minneapolis, because we did. And we created a following and all that. But there was nothing like that. It was nothing like what we experienced after our first tour, and then obviously the Rick James tour, which was, insane.
And what album was the Rick James tour for? Oh.
It was like
the answer.
It was like realizing a dream. Say what?
You cut out. So what album was the Rick James tour for?
We were doing. It was the first, the Prince album, and I'm not sure. I think Rick James's album. I'm not sure.
I'm sure. Yeah, I've heard so much about that tour, that infamous tour. It sounds like it was just a crazy, wild situation. You ain't that one.
It was.
Rick James, because it's
It was
Rick
a blast,
James.
though. I got to tell you.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Rick
good.
James he's a great dude. He's a great dude. It was rough at first because it was a whole ego thing, and and oddly enough, not so much even Prince as it was. It wasn't my ego, but they just thought that I had, a very intense attitude because when I perform, especially back then, I always take it very serious, and they thought I was maybe a little too serious. So.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And then, so you toured, you said 2 more tours. Any other tour highlights? Something kind of, you guys played a huge show or something? What are a memory or two of kind of touring the next 2 albums?
There were tons of highlights. I mean, obviously, let's see, highlights. It's just, I guess a highlight, I don't know if it's a highlight, but it's a funny story, I guess I say, is the first time we actually got, mobbed, I guess you'd say, as a group was, I think in Colorado, and it was on, I'm not sure, it was, we were we had a trailer, and at the time, we were just kind of building ourselves up, and people really they didn't understand that we had kind of started to catch on. And so they put us in this trailer that was outside of the venue. And so we were in the trailer, and after we finished playing, the trailer got surrounded by a bunch of fans and girls and stuff like that. And we didn't know what was going on at first. And so we're locked in this little trailer. The next thing you know, we hear all this chanting outside, and we look out the window, and the trailer's surrounded. And then we got, everybody was like, "Oh no, we can't get out." They started literally moving the trailer, and then then the security went into action. They were like, well, we got to get you guys out of here. And then it turned into some crazy movie, because then they tried to rush us into this limo, and then the limo took off and people surrounded the limo, and they literally ran people over, which was a nightmare because it turned out to be lawsuits and other kind of crazy stuff. And then when we finally got away, there was like 8 cars following us. And then our road manager tried to stop the people from following us. He tried to get out and yell at the car, and he jumped in there, and then they took off, and he was still hanging out of this Volkswagen. Then he got swung around and thrown out. It was just a nightmare. So anyway, that was a highlight.
Rock star life, right?
Yeah.
And then did you open for the Rolling Stones?
No, that was the first gig without me. That's the first gig they did right after I split.
I heard that one was not successful. They got booed, remember?
Yeah, that sounds like that didn't turn out so good, you know?
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been there, though. Because it looked like some of that pizza. I would have caught some of that, and it had pepperoni on it. I'd have been all up in that pizza. The beer, I'd have grabbed one of them beers.
Exactly.
Shit, it would have been fun.
Sure. Okay, so then you go solo in, what is that, like, what year? Like 82, 83 or something? Or?
Yeah, that's about right. 82, 83, yeah.
And then you do, I think, an album, and then the second album had the Dance Electric, right?
Third album had Dance Electric.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dance Electric, which I love that song. I have the 12-inch. And was that kind of the big single during that time for you, or was there something before that?
No, that was the big single at the time. There were other songs that obviously, because to tell you the truth, my goal was just to create music art. I wasn't trying to, if you listen to that album, you realize I was trying to do something completely different, because my goal was to try to do something nobody ever done. But the Dance Electric came about because Prince had said he had written this song that he thought I'd love, because the kind of stuff that we used to talk about. He said it was right up my alley, and so we went back and forth, and finally I decided to do it.
I like that first album, the one you did, your first album. It's very interesting. Like, it's cool, it's unique, so.
Thank you.
But yes, I love Dance Electric, like I said. It's an amazing song, and I have the 12-inch. What was that like, kind of, just having this, like, kind of very popular pop song that you're kind of like the lead now, and it's, it's all about you. How was that?
I'm to be honest with you, I'm a nonconformist, so it's all the same thing for me. I've been in bands since I was obviously 11. So so it was, it's just a continuation. So it's not like, oh no, now it's different. That wasn't my thrust. That wasn't my thing. That's not, I'm just, I just like to play music. I like to, entertain and all that kind of stuff. So to be honest with you, Dance Electric was great. Doing the video was amazing.
I love that video.
Yeah, and so and then it didn't hurt to finally have my record company finally, look at me as a real artist, because I'm like, I try to get them to understand I'm trying to create art. So if this is what it takes for you to understand, and but anyway, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience.
No, that song still, to me, every time I hear that song, I love that song to this day.
Oh yeah,
what's your sign? What's your sign?
Cancer.
Okay, just wondering. Because you sound like a true to the core artist. It's in your core.
Yeah. I am.
So, okay, Dance Electric's out. That's like, I think around 1985 or something. It's kind of the height of the 80s. Do you have any 80s? Like, what's the scene in the? I'm obsessed with the 80s. I'm an 80s baby. What's the scene of the 80s during that time? Like, are you going out to clubs? Are you meeting? I don't know, Grace Jones. What's happening?
I was at clubs all the time. I had a couple of friends, and we used to go out partying all the time. Subway, Palladium, you name it. There was all sorts of clubs around town. I would go to New York. I would go to Paris. I would travel around and just go to clubs. I was living, living that kind of lifestyle. Yeah.
Living your life and your shoulder pads, right? Like,
you know what? Parachute. I don't know if you remember Parachute, but I was like, oh man, I had all kind. There was a few fashion, and then Richard. Richard. God, he was a designer that I got into at the time. He was new. Yeah. And then Bobby Brown got hip to him, because my record company said, who makes your Richard Tyler? And then my record company said, Andre, where do you, because I got some people, and so I told him, and then Bobby Brown started getting his stuff done. But, it's like, I'm like, love to dress like you, but I can't come close to you. I don't touch you, but because I see you.
I posted the Dance Electric thing on my Instagram today, the cover. That alone, you already beat me with that one, so it's not a competition. You win. That little, it was a red leather jacket, I think. Okay,
Yeah.
so another person I love is Jody Watley. As
Uh-huh.
a young person, I was obsessed with her.
Hmm.
And then you started working with her, obviously, and produced most of her first album and a lot of her second album, right? You did
That's
basically,
correct.
to me, yeah, all of her big hits. Don't You Want Me, Still a Thrill, which I love. You're in the Still.
Actually, I didn't do "Don't You Want Me." Bernard
Oh,
Edwards did
okay.
"Don't You Want Me." Yeah.
You did Still a Thrill, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you're in the video, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that video. That's an amazing
Actually,
video.
I'm not in the "Still a Thrill" video. I'm in the
Oh,
Some Kind of Lover video, and
oh yeah.
I'm in the "Don't You Want Me" video. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so Jody Watley, to me at the time was very edgy. I think there
Oh
was
yeah.
like it was like Paula Abdul and Janet Jackson, these other girls. They were great pop artists, but Jody was very edgy. I thought, and
She
I was a
was.
young kid, so I was, and I think you are as well. So, did you guys, when you were putting out all these very popular songs, did you feel edgy, or would you feel like artists? What was going in your head? What was going on in your head?
Well, musically, I mean, because from my standpoint, musically, I tried to be as edgy as as I could. I was,
Yeah.
already, obviously coming from where I came from, had a history of creating a kind of a music sound. So I was coming from that standpoint. But Jody is always edgy.
Yep.
She's her own, she's
Yep.
her own entity, her own beast. When it comes to, just fashion, she knows where to go, what to do, how to dress, and so she had her
Well,
own. She's got her
as
own vibe,
as
and
a,
in fact, a lot of times she would turn me on to stuff that was just really fashion forward. And she,
yeah,
I think a lot of people, kind of emulated where she was coming from, and I don't think
totally.
she gets enough credit for that.
I totally agree, and I think that she was, as a kind of black R&B pop artist, she was so ahead of her time and basically
Right.
inspired, so many other people for the next 10 years, even just
Absolutely.
fashion-wise. So, but the music too is great. It stands the test of time. Even the music, because it was very popular and like pop music on the radio, but it's still really edgy. I listened to it
Yeah.
recently. It's like very edgy still.
Yeah. No, it is.
Still thrills.
I don't think there's too many songs that mess with "Still a Thrill," and the
I
way
agree.
she sang it in that deep voice. It's like,
I agree.
when you hear that now, it's like, yeah,
No, I agree. It's could come out now and still be considered cool and whatever, brand new. And I saw her in concert about a year ago, and she killed it. She was amazing. It was, for me, it's like a reminiscence because I love those songs as a kid. But I think that you guys were probably, with even in the music industry, considered these totally alternative and edgy people during that time of being so popular. That's just my take on it. But
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, we were, I think there was a whole thing going on because we were doing that, and also I did Adam Ant's album at the time,
yep,
right around the same
yep,
time, and that
yep.
song did really well, and so it was a great time, great
You
creative
worked with
time.
you worked with Jermaine Stewart as well, right?
Yeah, that was another super fun project.
I love him. He's like Jody's little brother in my head. But
Yeah, yeah,
I dressed up for you today and Jermaine Stewart. I said.
yeah.
So,
No,
what was Adam at like? I saw him in concert he opened for Debbie Harry Blondie about 2 years ago. I saw him. He seemed a little out there, I'd say. But how was he in general to work with?
he was. I mean, that was. I got to tell you, bar none, I think that might have been one of the funnest projects I ever worked on. Because Adam, he's got a sense of humor that you just, he's British, so he's got like a very, crazy sense of humor. We just had so
Yeah.
much fun doing that project, and and he's an extremely smart man. He's very learned. He's into all sorts of different kinds of, philosophies. I'm into boxing. He's into boxing. I was into motorcycles at the time. He was into motorcycles. It was just a lot of things. We just had so much fun. We were just all over the place, and we got to be really good friends while we were working on that project.
But he's great in general. Again, he was really edgy for his time as well. Very,
Yeah.
he was a very edgy
Yes, he
artist.
was.
So very cool. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
But I
think,
said, I found. Yeah, go.
I was going to say, I think, Prince owes a lot to his fashion sense, because I know when we went to, before we went to London, my brother gave us a book and said, listen, this is what you guys need to look at. And it had Adam on there with the ruffles and the,
New romantic.
sort
Yep.
of new romantic kind of,
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like, had a lot to do with that whole vibe.
Wow, that's interesting. I see it now too. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
Any other 80s stories? Like I said, the 80s to me seem just like such a amazingly indulgent and over the top moment in the world, musically, fashion wise, everything. Any other like? Because didn't Jody win some Grammys and stuff during that time? Were you a part of all that, or?
Yeah, she won the Grammy Award for Best New Artist, which was the album that I produced. Yeah, I mean, it was, it
Were
was
you there?
amazing. Yeah, I was there. When you see her accepting it, you look back and right back there, I got the big, high top bouffant hairdo going on. But yeah. Darby was up as well, and so was Club Nouveau. And, we had a few little, Club Nouveau and I had a little bit of a, conflict beforehand, but it was all cool. It was all good. And, but it was good because Terrence Trent D'Arby was, he was so respectful because he understood, he knew about, my careers in terms of Prince and my solo career and all that. And so he was really kind of respectful. And then I ran into Michael Jackson, who I had met before briefly. We never got a chance to talk. And so, he had said some interesting things, some, really cool things about me to Adam, which is how Adam and I, started hooking up. And so when I ran into him, we were backstage at the Grammy Awards when Jody won the Grammy Award. And Michael came up and he started to talk in this really almost down to earth street voice. He looked around and he didn't have anybody with him. And he said, so, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about, and I was like, and he started to talk, and then Whitney came around the corner, and Whitney and I, we were supposed to go out, right? We had met before she put out her big album, and she, our marketing people, A&R people, knew each other, and they had actually, got together and said, hey, why don't you guys hang out? We're going to talk. And so we wound up sitting down and kind of having lunch. And so we were talking, and she was telling me what she was going to do in the album she was going to put out and all that kind of stuff. And so we went on, and I was saying, yeah, I'm just, here doing, I was doing promo for my album at the time. It was, I think might have been Dance Electric, if I'm not mistaken. And so we were just talking, and she said, well, listen, I'm staying at the such and such, give me a call and all of that. And so I said, yeah. And then I didn't, right? I completely spaced. And so when I saw her backstage after Jody won the Grammy Award, just when Michael was about to break his whole vibe, she said, André Cymone. And she had her entourage with her. She said, you guys know he stood me up. We were supposed to go on a date. And I was like, ah. It was crazy. I was like, I felt so bad. But I was really looking forward to having that conversation with Michael because I always thought he and I could actually, vibe and work together and all of that. So anyway.
He never finished the conversation. Whitney interrupted, basically.
No. As soon as she walked up, he was out. I mean, she got about 3 words.
I ain't got no time for this.
When I turned around, he was like, he evaporated.
I could see him literally poofing like smoke, and he's gone. Right. That's
kind of what happened. I was like, wait, but anyway.
Well, Prince was like that. I have a lot of experience with Prince in the last 10 years. He would just appear and then disappear. Like, I'm like, where'd he go?
Yeah.
So how did you meet Mick Murphy? So Mick Murphy, who's watching right now. By the way, Mick Murphy won't do this with me. He keeps saying later, right? Whatever.
He should. I mean, that's you talk about somebody with a wealth of information and knowledge.
I know. Yeah. We've talked for hundreds of hours about things like this. He and I. And he won't do it. Mick, I'm calling you out right now. How did you and Mick meet?
Oddly enough, it seems like I've known Mick all my life. He's just he's like part of me.
Yeah.
How do we meet? I guess we met backstage at when I was in Prince's band, because I know Mick was involved in one of the bands that was performing as well. But just through the years, we've kind of run into each other, and then we actually wound up being in a band together.
Oh wow!
Soulmates. Yeah, we did a Soulmates album together, and then we just got to be really good friends. And since then, we've just stayed in touch. And I was living in New York for a while, so we got really tight then. And he's been here, and him and his wife have been out here, and we've been out there, and we go back, and Mick helped me work on one of the songs that I put out on my last album, Black Man in America. He came and came up with the hook and was like, you don't know what it's like. And we had fun doing that. So that's my guy. That's my guy.
No, he's extremely talented and a great person. He actually also has great style.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
he's performed for me many times at my parties, and every single time he kills it. Every time, like
yeah,
he's performed a lot. I'd say like maybe 5 or 8 times. He shuts it down every single
yeah,
time. It's
yeah.
amazing. So he's
He's a
really talented and
professional.
very talented.
He's a professional. He knows how to ebb and flow and bob and weave. You know,
Absolutely.
not just with the music, because obviously he's extremely talented, and what he does, nobody does what he does, and so
I agree.
it's a pleasure to watch him do what he does.
So, what do you prefer, producing, writing, or performing? Like, if you have to choose one, or you could say all three. What's your favorite, or what do you prefer?
You know, I kind of would say all three. I mean, I really love to create. You know,
Mhm.
because you know I play a lot of instruments.
Yeah,
You know, I play and I like to think I play them pretty good.
you
Play
do.
guitar pretty, you
You
know.
do.
Yeah, I mean, I play the guitar really well. I play bass, obviously, that's my main axe. And piano, I've always played piano really, really good, but now I'm really, since this pandemic, I've really gotten really into piano. So I'm just,
Right.
you know, like I think I said earlier, I've actually started recording a classical album. I'm
Oh,
not sure
amazing.
if I'll ever release it, but it's just been fun to do because I
Yeah.
love classical music, and I just thought it'd be interesting to do a classical album and just sort of take it somewhere else. I mean, I've done an acoustic album. Nobody's ever heard it. I've done a complete, you know, um, uh, I guess a protest album. Um, I've released bits and pieces of that, and now I've finished a funk album, and this is going to be this is kind of a return to what you know myself and Prince and some of the other folks from Minneapolis created, and you know nobody can really do it like we did it, and so I'm just trying to pay homage to something that I created when I was a teenager.
Great. One thing I do say too about Prince, which is kind of ironic, is that, to my knowledge, he started out playing. His father taught him to play the piano. I think, and it was just him and the piano. And Prince had an afro when he was a teenager, as you know. And his last tour, ironically, Prince, I saw him in concert my whole life. I saw him a million times in concert. He had an afro, and it was just him and the piano, which is so interesting. It went full circle. That's
Full
very interesting
circle.
to me.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so. So who or what inspires you kind of right now? Like it could be a person, a thing. What are some of your sources of inspiration in the last couple of years, let's say?
You know, everything inspires me. Honestly, I have kids. They're teenagers. I have older kids. I mean, but my kids that are here with me, there's three of them, twin girls, and they're 13. My son
Yep.
is 14. I mean, they you know constantly inspire me. My wife inspires me. You know,
Yep.
everybody's creative in our household.
Yep.
They're always doing
Yep.
something, and so they obviously inspire me. They listen to a lot of different kind of music. I constantly am always trying to discover music. So it's like I'm constantly inspired. But more than anything, I try to inspire myself because I
Good.
just always
Good.
sit down and just play. You know, I just jam. I'll just come up with a beat. You know, I'll just
Yeah.
anyway. So and then the next thing I know, oh, that would be cool. What can I
Yeah.
put with that? And I bam. Then I'm off and rolling, and then you know,
Good.
then I go. And the next thing you know, it's a whole groove. And then I think, oh wow, it'd be cool to bring some folks in, you know. So then I'm off to the races.
No, I agree. I think that for myself, included myself as well. I just like to be. I like to stay inspired always. That's my goal, is to always be
Yeah,
inspired.
yeah.
Never not be. Not
That's
be
what
inspired.
you know. If you're gonna do entertainment of any kind, if it's fashion, always be inspired. I'm always looking at magazines. I'm
Yeah.
always looking at I'm looking at your stuff. I'm looking at stuff on Instagram, everywhere. I mean, there's just so much stuff right now that speaks to me, that talks to me, that reaches
Yeah.
out. That I go, wow, that's cool. You know, I mean, I think sometimes people shut down and they think you got to start living some kind of life. I just stay inspired. I'm never going to shut down. You know, I'm going to stay,
You seem
hopefully in
inspired.
touch. Yeah.
Are there any kind of current artists the last, let's say, 5 years or something that you like, or is there anyone that you're kind of feeling at the moment, or it doesn't have to be a brand new artist? It could be like, Frank Ocean, who came out a couple years ago, like 7, 8 years ago. Is there anybody that you feel right now, a newer artist? And the answer is, if it's no, that's fine too. You mean?
Well, I mean, there's so many. I mean, I don't even know
Okay.
where to
Okay.
really start. I mean, um, I know one of my favorites is Nick Hakim. I love his stuff. He's got a whole different approach. James Blake, I dig. You mentioned Frank Ocean, yeah. Um, uh, Obviously, there's some new groups that came out. Questlove invited me to come to his New Year's hookup, or it was right, not New Year's, his Grammy hookup. And
Hmm.
the name escapes me, but they're really, really, there was like 3 or 4 different groups that were just blew me away. So
Yeah, his jam session, the pre-Grammy jam session kind of thing, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but so I mean, I say that to say there's a lot of art, there's a lot of artists, there's a lot of creative folks out. D'Angelo, I still think, that
Yep,
last joint he put out was dope.
yep.
There's just a lot of stuff going on. You know, um, there's some groups out of Minneapolis that are, starting to make some noise. I just saw this video that captures, really the heart and soul of where I grew up. I'm going to post it
Amazing.
because it's really cool. I think E.G. Daily did it. It was a really cool hookup. But there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I'm inspired. I even like a lot of pop stuff. You
Yeah,
know, um, you know, uh, stuff I guess I'm not supposed to like or whatever. But I guess you know, um, because I have teenage kids,
yeah,
unlike, K-pop and all of that kind of stuff, I'm inundated with everything. And even though a lot of it is derivative of something else, it's still inspiring. Even,
yeah,
when I think about music that I was listening to when I was their age, some of it was
yep,
derivative of other stuff then.
yep.
Because if it was Ohio Players, or it was Commodores, or it was Bar-Kays, or if it was Earth, Wind and Fire, or whatever it might have been, um, there was just a lot of stuff going on. And, I mean, I love it when people can embrace. And I think, when we come out of this, because you were talking about that earlier, I think when we come out of this pandemic, I think people are going to be wanting to celebrate, wanting to embrace music again. And they're going to open it up. And it's not going to just be some one little isolated kind of thing. And I think that's why you dig the 80s so much, because the 80s, man, think about all the groups that were in the 80s. You had everything, which was kind of like how it was sort of in the 70s. You had everything, and it kind of carried over. But in the 90s, they started trying to gatekeep a little too much, and they started trying to filter, and then the new millennium, then it was all about trying to keep money for some people and isolate other people. Then it became total isolation. Now you just have a handful of groups that can be controlled by a small amount of record labels, because it's a deal that they cut with Spotify and with all these things. So it's like it's not even a record business anymore. It's just a exploitation business.
You're right, and that's true. Like the '80s was probably the last decade that was still a creative. Music was still a creative process. In the '90s
Exactly.
it got a little less creative, and by 2000s it was so
Right.
marketed.
Well, if you think
So
about it, obviously in the 90s, it was all about samples and loops. So it was about
yeah,
taking music from the
yep,
70s and 80s, and sort of, putting some kind of rap to it. And then 2000, same thing. And then they realized, hey, we can actually, if we own the copyrights to the licensing to all this music, we can just keep getting paid. And we don't have to do these new artists and this new stuff and market it and all that other. Anyway, it's just turned into a different kind of business.
yeah. Because I had a friend in the 2000s. When ringtones were popular, her song was very popular with a ringtone, so they wouldn't. But her album, she wanted to be released from her contract. They wouldn't let her go because her ringtone was still making money. Like they were
Right.
torturing her basically. She was stuck. She was like, I can't make a new album because my label won't make an album for me, but they won't let me go because my ringtone is still making money, and so was mine.
But think about that. Think about because of her ringtone.
Yeah, I know. I know.
That I hate to laugh, but that's so silly.
Like, yeah, imagine being an artist stuck in that purgatory.
Yeah,
Um, okay, so this is very relevant, obviously. In 2016, you did, what was it called? Black Men in America, the EP, and then
right,
you also did the song Black Lives Matter.
right.
So I want to ask you what inspired you to do that and what that meant to you in 2016, not 2020.
Right. Black Man in America was inspired by life, for one thing,
Yeah.
first and foremost. But second of all, by a friend of mine who had gotten gotten beat by the police for basically nothing. He was just waiting on the bus, you know, and basically they didn't like where he was waiting or something, and they just harassed him. And the next thing you know, he's getting beat with a baton and sprayed with pepper spray and taken to jail. And then he, you know, and then my nephew basically had gotten traumatic brain injury. They broke his back. He can't walk now. I mean, he's literally in a wheelchair. You know, and that's because he got beaten by the police. So it's like, you know, it's just life, you know. And then obviously as a black man, you know, you live life and you understand that you're always a target. You're always under siege, whether you like it or not. You can have money, you could have, you know, a position or whatever status, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. You know, the police don't see any of that. They just, in fact, that's, you know, their whole thing is, I'm going to make an example out of you. I'm going to make an example out of you, you know, and then it becomes that whole issue. So, but that's what was the catalyst in inspiring that particular song. And Black Lives Matter, obviously, the thing about Black Lives Matter is because when you think about history and you think about everybody has, you know, this life, you know, statues and this great history and John Wayne and all these people that they can look up to. If you go through films, you know, I think that's a good way of looking at it. You have, you know, Rory Calhoun, you have, you know, Barbara Stanwyck, you have you name it. You have, you know, Gary, Clark Gable, you have Gary, anyway, you have, you know, James Cagney, you have all these different, you know, actors and, you know, Cary Grant, that's what I was thinking about. All these different people that people can look up to, and, you know, but, you know, and they all seem to matter. It's this wonderful thing. And it's like statues and history and all of these different things. And then black folks, you know, are just, you know, they're brought here against their will. It was just chilling wherever they was chilling, doing whatever they was doing, brought here against their will, just, you know, and then made to do whatever, just, you know, and just everything is taken from them. And then they have to fight and fight and fight and start to, you know, fight for equality and keep going through all of this stuff and invent stuff, you know, the banjo, peanut butter, the lawnmower, light bulb, or a combination of creating a light bulb, heart surgery, you know, it goes on, air conditioning, you know, I mean, it goes on, and all the different things, rock and roll, funk, you know, blues, jazz, you know, it's just, you know, you create, you do all of these things, and you just keep fighting, and then you still get treated like you're some sort of appendage, something that, you know, is, oh, we'll do, okay, well, let's give them this building, and, you know, this old building over here, and they can build, we'll throw a community center, and you can have that, okay, and then just be quiet and stay over there, and it's like, you know, just be calm and just be happy that you got that. And so we have to keep fighting, and we fight some more and try to get more, and, you know, okay, well, then we'll give you this, and then be, you know, and so, you know, people wonder why we say, well, we matter. We matter. We've been doing shit. You know, you know, it's not like we don't pay taxes, haven't been doing stuff. If you write a hit record, and if you write a lot of hit records, you're paying a whole lot of taxes. So if you think of all the people that you know that are black that wrote hit records or produced them or whatever, they're paying a hell of a lot. I'm paying enough taxes for 20, 30 families. So it's like, look, it's the bottom line is Black Lives Matter. Black art matters, black creativity matters. And so when people say Black Lives Matter, understand what that means. It doesn't mean that, you know, nobody else matters, because everybody else has been mattering all the time. It's just that we're treated like we don't matter. So we have to say, hey, wait a minute. It's like when you see a little group of kids and they're playing, and it's like, you know, and they're like, one little kid, just because maybe he's a little shorter or something like that, like he shouldn't be able to play because he's too little. No, he matters. Come on in, get in the game. It's the same thing. We just want to, we're just, you know, we've fought, we've earned our way. We should matter.
Yeah, you want to equal and fair. That's, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I don't know, I watched the documentary 13th, which I recommend every human sees, and it kind of explains the, you know, systematic racism from the history of it. And, you know, the perseverance of black people in general and the creativity is like, it's amazing to me. The perseverance and the optimism and the creativity. That to me was like an amazing thing, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, you know, it is. I mean, when you think about the struggle, you know, when you really think, because I don't think a lot of people really think about the struggle that black people have gone through.
I agree. White people don't, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
you know.
And the reality is with what happened with George Floyd, and because that happened in a community that I'm actually from, and the attorney general that's prosecuting the case is a friend of mine. So I know the neighborhood.
Yep.
I know what leads up to this kind of thing. There was a riot back in 1967, and it's just it's a repeat reality. It's like the same thing happens over and over again. And I'm hoping this time, because one of the beautiful thing, and I have to say this, the beautiful thing is that we got a lot of white folks understanding that it's time to move on. They want to turn the page. They get it. They get it. And I think they've gotten it for a long time. There's just a fringe element that doesn't want to get it because they're trying to hold on to something, and I'm not even sure what it is. But the reality is, this is a train. This is a train, and the train has left the station, and either you get on board or you get left behind.
And also, I went to one protest here in LA, and it was, I would say, about 60% white, which was very, I guess, interesting and refreshing. But they're also, it's kind of, unanimous. This is a young person's fight right now. This is a young person's, like, a 20 to an 18 to 28-year-old person is the one that's fighting for this right now, the protests and things, which is really great. And there's a meme and like someone's protest sign that's going around Instagram that says, "You picked the wrong generation to mess with," which I agree with. I think that hopefully, so.
I agree, but I'm gonna have to push back a little bit, only because I do agree that there's a lot of young folks out there. But if you think about it, it's all over the map. I mean, the guy that got pushed down and cracked his head, and that was a older gentleman. So I think you got a lot of folks that are in there, trying to basically standing up, putting their lives on the line, for Black lives to matter. And I have to say, as a Black man, I appreciate that so much, because you cannot do it. This movement can't happen, with just Black people. And it couldn't happen when Martin Luther King was alive, and it can't happen now. It takes all of us. It's like anything else to be successful. In order for us to be successful back in the day, me and Prince and all of that stuff, it took a village for us to become successful back then. It's the same thing, and it's the same thing now. Everything is kind of, the process is basically a very, is the same. So it takes the same elements to succeed.
Well, yeah. No, but there has to be more of us than more of them. I feel like, we all have to be on the right side of things. Has to be more of us than more of them. That's how I see it.
I agree.
Has to be outnumbered them. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so are you familiar with Afropunk, or do you know about Afropunk?
Afropunk, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the
festival?
I have a T-shirt. I have the festival. I've been waiting for them to invite me to perform at the festival, and I'm looking forward to the day that they do.
I was going to say, okay, I want to make sure you know what it was.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a huge fan of Afropunk. I didn't go the first couple of years, but I've gone almost about 10 years in a row. And to me, you're very that, and, the whole, you guys in the beginning, those early 80s are like, to me, the epitome of Afropunk, which, I think that, it's an amazing thing. And I just wonder, what was your feelings on Afropunk? Do you like it? That kind of thing. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's dope. I mean, every group that I've seen, every time I've seen the festival, I thought that it was, very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's just,
you're like the epitome of Afropunk, when I think about you.
It'd be great to be involved in that. Yeah.
I think Prince was like rumored to play it a couple of years. He never did. I think it would have been brilliant for him to play as well, because he's also very Afropunk.
Yeah. No, I think so. I mean, it's I don't know. It's such a cool festival. I mean, the groups that I see, and not just the groups, but I think the people that attend it, everything about it is really cool. I mean, because it seems to be, it's got a certain edginess to it. Yeah, I'm trying to get a little light in here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a million times. There's nothing like it. The crowd, a lot of times I'll get to go backstage and hang out in the, whatever area, and I prefer to go through the crowd and just be in the crowd, because it's like the most amazing, kind of inspiring, really amazing people. I love the crowd there. It's very, very unique. I go every year. I saw Grace Jones, Gary Clark, Lenny Kravitz, all these amazing people. So, all All right, so in 2000, maybe 14, 16, I interviewed The Revolution for the 30th anniversary of Purple Rain on this panel, and they didn't know me. And, you know, to their credit, they're like, who the frick is this white boy? Like, you know, whatever. And I, you know, knew a lot about music. So at the end, they were totally, you know, oh, but in the beginning, they were very standoffish. But, you know, something about them too struck me is that they're also very funky. Like, they're very funky musicians, and they're so, you know, like, you know, I know musicians from all over the, let's say, United States. Something about the musicianship of Minneapolis spawns these really great, like, you know, musicians. Like, what do you think? What do you think of them? And what do you think? Like, why do you think everyone's so good in Minneapolis? What's in the water there? You mean?
Well, you know, I mean, I have to say a couple of things. You know, I think there's definitely funky music in Minneapolis, and there's something in the
Yep.
water, and I agree with all of that.
Yep.
But it comes down to the song. You know, I mean, you know, they're playing some pretty funky songs.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
sure.
I mean,
The
and
arrangement.
the person that wrote those funky songs made sure that they played them exactly the way that he wanted them to play them. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, you know, because, you know, I mean, you never really know how funky somebody is until they write a funky song that they wrote that's their own thing, you know. But having said that, you know, I have to say, uh, um, Wendy, you know, comes from, she has a background, you know, of her father and, you know, and music. And Lisa has a background, and actually her brother as well. I mean, these guys come from a musical background, so they have a DNA,
Yeah.
of not just funk, but just being able to grasp the sensibility of of various musical styles. So, and I think that that's really important. I think that's one of the things that, you know, Prince probably saw, and then when he decided to, you know, to have them in his band.
Yeah, my question is, do you think it's like the chicken before the egg? Do you think they were talented, or Prince kind of whipped them into shape? Like, what? It's a little bit of both, right? What do you think?
I definitely think it's a little bit of both. But obviously they definitely were talented. I cannot
Yeah, yeah,
not say
yeah,
they
yeah,
were talented.
yeah.
That's, you know, it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. But, you know,
Um,
but obviously Prince definitely would whip them, I assume
yeah.
would whip them into shape. I mean, I wasn't there. I mean, back when I was in the band, I was kind of more or less the musical director, because I wound up being involved in a lot of, you know, helping, you know, shape.
He'll be back.
Oh, there
Um,
we go.
so you did. You were singing with the Revolution in the past couple of years, right?
Yeah, I did. Well, we
New
just
lead,
did
right?
two shows. We did three shows. We did the first time they did anything, you know, obviously without, well, as far as I know, without Prince. Um, we did three shows right after Prince passed away. They had asked me if I would come and join them to do a tribute, you know, in honor of Prince at First Avenue. And at first, I wasn't interested because I thought it was a little bit too soon, and I
Yeah.
hadn't even processed, you know, wasn't
Yeah.
even sure that it was true. I just, you know, I was like,
Mhm.
you know, knowing Prince the way that I do, I was like, is he really? I'm not even sure if this is real yet. I can't really, you know, until I, you know, I'm not. I was trying. I couldn't get my head around it. So I
Yeah.
wasn't, you know. But Bobby, being how Bobby is, was very persistent. He kept reaching out to
Yeah.
me and kept reaching out to me until finally, I think I was in Tucson. Finally, I was like, you know, I tried to find something that, you know, made sense. And the one thing that he said is that I think the fans really need it. I think they
Yeah.
really need that that kind of healing. And I think you would be great to sort of, you know, because, you know, you were his best friend. You would be great to sort of help, you know, fans sort of overcome the grief. And so I, you know, I think that's what resonated. And then I thought, you know what, you know,
Because
I need to put my
it could
personal
help
thing
people.
aside and do that.
Yeah, it could help people. You know, that was a motivation for you, maybe. You
Yeah.
know.
And I also did, you know, the MPG did the same thing. They reached out and said, hey, you know, would you be willing to do the same thing with us? And so I did with them as well, which was
And you
kind of,
were singing. Well, you were singing, right?
yeah, I was singing lead, yeah, and playing
And
guitar, and yeah.
what were some of your favorite songs to perform? Is that the first time you had done those songs, kind of like lead?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah.
the first time. It was like,
That's what I thought. Yeah.
yeah, that was the first time because it's like, uh, you know, Prince has so many amazing songs. I never ever thought about me performing them is just,
Yeah.
not something that I ever thought that I would ever do.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, there's a lot of songs I wasn't even that familiar with, because once I left, I left, and as we talked, I wound up doing my own stuff and stuff with Jody and stuff with Jermaine and stuff with Adam, and just I
Living
was
your
on
life.
my own thing.
Yeah.
But I will say, yeah, no, it was. I think, let's see, what I love doing Housequake. That's a hard song, super hard song to do, but it's a super fun song. It's like, when you get it, it's great, but it ain't easy.
Yeah.
I love doing Raspberry Beret because that's one of my favorite songs. Let's see, there's just Never Take the Place of Your Man. I love that song.
Me too. Love that song.
There's another song that I wound up doing that I just never thought I'd wind up doing, but it was a fun song to do. But it's not easy. It's All the Critics Love You. It's like, that is not an easy song to do. And Dorothy Parker, I love that song. That's not an easy. Sometimes you listen to them, you think, they're simple songs, because as a musician, whenever I listen to music, I'm a producer, so I'm always breaking it down and trying to figure out what's what and melodies and all that kind of stuff. But I never really had to, because me and Prince played in a band for years before there was any success. So I kind of knew his whole thing. I was there when he did his first album. I was involved in all of that kind of stuff. So I get his whole approach and his sensibilities, but I had been gone for a long time, and he had grown exponentially since I left musically, and I wherever he was drawing his influences from, whether it's his other band members that he had started to work with, and he obviously had grown and had taken on some different kind of approaches. So to get into that, to do some of those songs, required some serious homework, And then I also have to say, performing, because I had taken a 27-year hiatus, so I really hadn't performed a whole lot. I did a few gigs when in 2014 I started to do, I decided to come back and do solo stuff because I really wanted to, speak on these issues of Trayvon Martin, of Michael Brown, and of Freddie Gray. And so I started really putting music out again because I really wanted to address those issues. So I started doing a few little clubs around Los Angeles. And then the next thing I knew, I'm in front of, 18,000 people. And it's like, okay, this is different. I'm looking up in the rafters and they're just packed. And it was a different kind of experience, but it was, at the end of the day, either you're an entertainer or you're not. So
it's true. Yeah. You've been a rock star since birth, basically. So we have 2 minutes left. Is there anything that you want to, share? Anything you want to promote or tell us? I want to thank you very much for doing this. It's very exciting. I'm a music nerd. I love stuff like this. Anything that you want to share before we wrap it up?
Let's see. I have a song out now that basically is called "Our World Is on Fire." There's a video, and check it out because it points to exactly what happened in Minneapolis. And the thing about that song is I wrote it, a couple of years, well, not quite a couple of years ago, but I wrote it a while ago, about a year ago, I guess. And we'd been performing it. But when this happened in Minneapolis, when George Floyd was murdered, it seemed like perfect. And my wife came to me and said, you should put that out. We should do something. Yeah. She had came up with some ideas and some concepts for a video. And, we got together with a friend of mine, Burr Levant, and we created a video and got it out there. I didn't want to step on the toes of what was going on, so we wanted to wait a little bit. So we released it, I believe, Juneteenth. And just so I would say check that out. That's the only thing I have to promote. When the album comes out, I'm going to try to wait for people to be ready to celebrate, because I think if people wear their masks, and everybody should wear your masks, and people should social distance, and I think if they do that and get that locked in their head, like they said, in 6 to 8 weeks, we could be done with this. It's real simple. It's not rocket science. It's just 6 to 8 weeks, lock down, wear a mask if you have to go out, and we can be done with this, and we got to start going out and partying again. You and I can get together, and we can do a show.
I agree. 15 seconds left. It's going to hang up. I want to thank you so much for the art you have given the world. You are such an important person to culture. I really appreciate you doing this. And I will post your video and your album and everything when you're ready to do that. I'll post it all for you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Have a great night. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.